arm is resting on a previously wiped area. So there's been movement of his arm that occurred after the wiping occurred, because the wiping does not go across his arm, it's below it.
So someone had to have wiped that area and then manipulated the body?
Yes. Okay, yeah, moved, yes. Manipulated, moved, yeah.
3245 and 3310. What are you focusing in on in this particular slide?
Well, here we see some transfer stains on the wall and the lower wall and the baseboard, and you see a bloodstained towel next to it and his arm. There's also some small spatters, which are down at the baseboard. Again, this area has been altered. I can't say specifically what caused those transfer stains, but a possible candidate would be his right arm, but it would have to have been, the body would have to have been a little closer to the wall for that to occur.
Okay, so we've been listening to that testimony from forensic consultant Stuart James for the prosecution. I want to bring in now forensic criminologist Dr. Lauren Pettler, joining us in Monroe, North Carolina for analysis. I understand that you know this particular witness. What's your impression of how he's describing what happened with the kind of blood stain pattern analysis?
Oh, you know what, Joy? He is doing a great job explaining to the jury a very complicated topic. It's very difficult to take years and years of knowledge and experience and translate that to terms that a jury can understand. So basically what I've been listening to Stuart do, and I've known Stuart for probably 20 years. He was my teacher, and I've also taught with him. He was one of my bloodstain teachers. But he is explaining to the jury not only what the patterns are and how we come to call them by name, such as a void pattern or a wipe or a transfer, but he's explaining to them how they are created, because one of the most important things to remember about bloodstain pattern analysis is that it's all grounded in the laws of physics. So gravity is extremely important when it comes to bloodstain pattern analysis, and looking at it to measure like the size of the stain and the shape of the stain. And by doing things like that, we can tell not only where blood came from, but we can also tell how high above the floor or how far away from a wall the blood source was when it left the blood source, in this case, the victim or maybe the defendant, and then traveled through the air either to the floor or to the wall. So he's explaining also where it was cleaned up or where it was attempted to be cleaned up, which crosses, of course, into the world of staging a scene. You know, that's the only reason you're cleaning it up before you're calling the police.
And I was going to ask you about that. You know, you mentioned the blood being not just from the victim here, but potentially from the defendant as well. I want to ask you about the possibility of perhaps a staged suicide attempt. What do you think?
Yes, so one of the things to keep in mind when you're talking about stabbing deaths and stabbing murders is that the defendant oftentimes gets cut during the assault because blood is super slippery. And it really gets slick on the handle of that knife. And then sometimes if the offender is stabbing the victim, the hand of the offender can slide down the blade, and then you have these mixtures of blood that they find at scenes where DNA matches both the victim and the defendant, or, you know, majority of one or the other. But yes, it's very slippery, and it can cause a lot of injury to the weapon can cause a lot of injury to the defendant as well.
Wow, yeah, that's incredible to think about, and just to see those images and put it together with the testimony and analysis. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Laura Pettler.
You're welcome.
Joining us from Monroe, North Carolina. And of course, we're going to continue our coverage of the kitchen knife murder trial. We'll bring you back live into court ahead here on Court TV.
Pat and Leslie Better.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Joy Lim-Nackern in for Julie Grant this afternoon. We continue following the kitchen knife murder trial. Defendant Danielle Redlick stands accused of killing her husband, Michael Redlick, and he used to be her stepfather, by the way. She claims she was acting in self-defense. We've been hearing from prosecution witness Stuart James, a forensic consultant, testifying about the blood patterns that he analyzed, as well as an apparent cleanup. Let's go back live into court.
Hallway or whenever, and dripping blood. You'll see a drip trail. You may or may not see directionality, depending upon how fast they were walking. And then if they went down a hallway and came back, you generally would see a second drip trail going, not too far from it, but there'd be a pair of them, one going up and one coming back. I can't say in this case because it's been too altered.
The entire scene.
Yes, totally altered, yes.
What do we see here? Photograph 3396 and 3398.
Okay, here we see some small spatters that are, if you look closely, you can see they've got a downward directionality, so they're coming from top to bottom.
Okay. And now moving kind of farther towards the primary bedroom in photograph 337, continuation of that wipe pattern with the directionality that you previously discussed?
Yes, and here's a better example of the feathering I was talking about. See, it's more concentrated here, and then it lightens up. That's why I was saying directionality, looking at the photo from right to left. That's what I was talking about.
Photograph 3341, what is this, a useful photo
That's
to describe?
That's another good example of the wiping, but you also see right below that, you can see some altered stains that have begun to dry. You got the outer perimeter area, and then you got some small spatters over here, which may also be just some dried flakes of blood. Again, here's a good example of, stains that have begun to dry from the outside in, but the centers are void, so that is more indicative of wiping, especially right here too. These all used to be drip stains before they were wiped through.
So this is another example of sequencing where the blood was deposited, there's sufficient time for it to dry from the outside in, and then it's wiped through, but that dry part is still left.
That's correct.
Okay. Continuing to follow that pattern as we move towards into the primary bedroom.
Yes, the pattern continues, through the hallway, around to the edge of the bedroom. Could you just go back one?
Yes.
Yeah, you can see where the bedroom is. And then it turns in toward the bathroom.
And we're seeing that pattern in this next slide, photograph 3347 and 3346.
Yes, again, more wiping area. If this area was not wiped, you would see more drip stains.
And you may be able to tell more about what happened in the scene.
If the wiping had not occurred, there was, I believe, a lot of information was lost by the wiping.
Destroyed.
Objection, argument.
Sustained.
I'm sorry?
Moving on. Photograph 3206. We're continuing to follow that pattern towards the bathroom.
Yeah, the picture on the left, you can see the pattern coming out of the hallway and then turning into the bathroom area. And then going now on the right side, the pattern is going into toward the bathroom.
do we see sort of evidence here of kind of a more thorough cleanup as we get kind of closer to the bathroom? Sort of more has been diluted, more has been removed.
Well, certainly there's not as much blood, but then again, I don't know how much blood was there originally. So again, it's an unanswered question.
Photograph 3355.
Number 15 here, evidence marker 15, shows you a pair of slacks that appear to have some blood saturation on them. And adjacent to that, you see some well-formed drip stains that have not been altered at all.
Okay. And photograph 3774 and 3776.
Yeah, there you see, there are two closets, one on the left side of the hallway and one on the right, and I believe this was one or the other, male or female closet. And that's simply a transfer stain on just inside the interior wall of the closet, just caused by an object wet with blood that made contact with it.
From your review of the entire set of photos, would you be able to say that this particular transfer stain was kind of sort of isolated or separate from the main pattern of blood within the house?
Yes, it's kind of off by itself for whatever reason.
Okay. All right, going to look at the next presentation. And are we now going to focus in on the patterns that were present in the primary bathroom?
Okay, you can see the wiping pattern coming up to and just over the threshold into the bathroom.
Okay. Look at that. Those pants again. Now let's look at these two photos and talk about what you're able to opine based off of the order of events.
Yes, we're looking at the interior floor of the bathroom, and you can see there's a broken piece of molding here, which actually fits up here when it was all one piece. But what is significant to me is that that piece was broken.
And as we've been watching this live testimony from a forensic consultant testifying for the prosecution, Stuart James, I want to bring in now a guest analyst for this hour, Melissa Pinkleton, a retired police sergeant from the Nashville Police Department. Thank you so much for being with us, Melissa. As you're listening to this testimony, what is it that strikes you as really being a challenge for investigators?
Well, the challenge for the investigators is what he's been describing so much, is that there's been so much manipulation of the scene and of the blood and the spatter that it is a challenge to try and figure out, okay, her story doesn't match, her claim of self-defense doesn't match along with the evidence there. And that's very tricky when she has made several attempts, or allegedly made attempts, to clean it up or to wipe it, or to wipe it and put other objects over, like the table and the lamp that he was describing. So it makes it really a lot harder for crime scene investigators when dealing with manipulation of this.
Sure, and you know, you obviously been involved in many investigations in your career. What's the first thing that you do when you get to a scene like that, which apparently was so bloody and gory?
Yeah, unfortunately, I've been to a lot of scenes like that. I've not been a crime scene tech, but when you get there, first thing you do, we obviously make sure there's nobody that needs any medical assistance. But once you determine that and see that there's no other suspects there in the scene, you back out of the house completely, and you secure and you wait for the people who can come in, the crime scene techs who can take the pictures and then get that evidence to experts, such as the one on the stand right now, so that helps the investigation the best they can.
Yeah, the work of investigators is so important. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise. Former Police Sergeant Melissa Pinkleton joining us in Nashville, Tennessee. And we're going to continue our coverage of the kitchen knife murder trial, bringing you back live into court. So keep it right here on Court TV. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Joy Limnacher in for Julie Grant this afternoon. We continue our coverage of the kitchen knife murder trial. Defendant Danielle Redlick is accused of murdering her own husband, Michael Redlick, who also was her stepfather previously. She claims she was acting in self-defense. We've been listening to testimony from a prosecution witness, Stuart James, a forensic consultant, talking about blood patterns found at the scene and also an apparent cleanup. Let's go back live into court.
Example of satellite spatter. And satellite spatter, by the way, very rarely will be more than 15 or 20 inches above the floor because of the way it's produced. And we see it on the baseboard and we see it on the lower wall. Okay, how did it get there? Well, this area here is clean, but this is the area that would have produced the satellite spatter based on blood dripping in the blood, but it's not there. You cannot get this, you cannot make this pattern without having some additional blood.
So one time there had to have been a pool of blood in that area.
A pooling of blood, and I can clarify, a pooling of blood or multiple drops that are close together.
And whatever was there is gone.
It's gone. And the satellite stains are present, but you cannot tell where the parent area was.
Get more of a close-up of the satellite stains and kind of this line of demarcation towards the bottom of the floor where it's been.
And that becomes a void area.
Okay.
You can see there's some of the drip stains are actually still present over there, but there was much more there to create the satellite spatter on the baseboard to the right.
All right, talk to the jury about this collage of photos on the next slide, photograph 3451, 3458, 3456.
Well, you can see the trash can has been dented. I just made that observation. I'm not attaching any significance to it necessarily. But you see the contents of the trash can have been photographed. And you've got the that Laura Mercer box. It's got blood transfer on it. And you've got another the whitish cloth or something that's got some blood transfer on it. As you have a McDonald's bag, and you also have a quarter-pounder box which has blood transfer on it.
So what can you infer about the presence of this blood transfer on the quarter-pounder box?
Well, it was placed in the trash can after blood had been produced on it.
And something or someone with blood on them coming in contact with that object?
Well, and then someone had to place it in the trash, yes.
And then place it in the trash, okay. 3514, what is this stain on this T.G. Lee milk jug an example of?
Well, this photograph shows you the container of milk in the refrigerator. And right above the label of Dairy Pure T.G. Lee, there's a transfer stain, which is very close to the handle where one would attempt to pick up the container. So someone had likely came in contact with that object.
Okay, photograph 3144, just a sort of an overall shot of the kitchen from an opposite angle. And moving towards the sink, what do we see here in the next slide?
Well, we see three more evidence markers, 5, 6, and 7. You see a diluted stain on the edge of the sink with the peripheral rim that's darker that we've seen before. And we see utensils in the sink, labeled 5, 6, and 7 being a knife, and then a spoon and a knife, and then number 7, I can't tell right away. It's a white handle something.
Okay. Let's talk about what stains, if any, you see on any of these objects inside the bathroom, or I'm sorry, inside the sink.
Yes, on number 5, there appears to be reddish brown staining on the blade. Number 7, there appears to be a small amount of reddish brown staining on the white handle, in addition to the adjacent area in the sink, which would be here, and then,
Oh, sorry.
here, and then as well there.
Okay. And do we see some patterns that are consistent with the
There's
appearance of
more,
blood?
There's more foot impressions, which you see several there in that area.
Talk to the jury about the appearance of the stain that we see here in photograph 3505 and 3508.
Yeah, those stains are very odd looking. You can see they've been deposited there. But they've been altered. But I don't think they were altered by anyone in particular. I believe they were deposited, such possibly a drip stain, and then something.
Okay, you've been watching that live testimony in the kitchen knife murder trial. I want to say thank you to Dr. Laura Pettler and Melissa Pinkleton for analysis, handing it off to my colleague, Judge Ashley Wilcott now.
Thank you so much, Joy Lim-Nackard, and we're going to get you right back into that courtroom. Live testimony continues right after this quick break here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.